White Sunday is for white robes newly baptized were clothed in, symbolic of becoming gods too. These passages become clear as to their meaning when we take into account other passages in the Bible and in historic Christian writings, typologies, and ritualistic garment-colored symbolism. White garments or skins are symbolic of deification and becoming pure. Early Christian fathers also speak of garments or animal skins being whitened by Christ too. Note how Alma, in speaking to the church, uses garment imagery when he wrote of how they should strip themselves of different evils, such as pride, envy, and other vices. In Alma chapter 5, verse 21, quote, "There can no man be saved except his garments are washed white. Yea, his garments must be purified until they are cleansed from all stain through the blood of him of whom it has been spoken by our fathers, who should come and redeem his people from their sins." And of course that is Jesus Christ, who was predicted. Alma 5:22. Note the judgment imagery. Quote, "If ye stand before the bar of God, having your garments stained with blood and all manners of filthiness," end quote. Alma asks if they think that they can go to heaven and sit down with the prophets of old, quote, "whose garments are cleansed and spotless, pure and white." Verse 24. Verse 27, that your garments have been cleansed and made white through the blood of Christ. Verse 28, note the garment imagery of taking off old garments, or the old man of sin, as early Christians also wrote about too. "Behold, are ye stripped of pride?" This is a question the Alma asks the church. Verse 29, "Who is not stripped of envy?" Verse 33, "The arm of mercy are extended toward them." Like in early to later Christian artworks of Christ's ascension up into heaven, you have the arm of extending down. But again, notice the garment imagery and typology here in Alma chapter 5 of the Book of Mormon. Historic Christian art shows people washing or whitening their robes in Christ's blood as it flows from the cross. Revelations chapter 7 verses 13 through 15, 3rd Nephi chapter 27 verses 14 through 19. The forgotten books of Eden, first book of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve clothed themselves in garments made out of skins of sheep. Garments were placed upon catechumens at baptism. Quote, the garment of skins placed upon Adam, end of quote. That's what these baptismal garments were symbolic of for the catechumens. White, black, light, darkness, skin of blackness, white and delightsome, etc. In understanding ancient colored symbolism of Jews, early Christians, Mayans, Egyptians, etc., we'd see that such Book of Mormon types are colored symbolisms for good or bad. In Book of Mormon, it's not racial skin colors traditionally believed. It's symbolic of good or bad. Early to later Christians also literalized their earlier colored symbolisms too, where blacks, cripples, and blind people were assumed to be born that way because they had sinned in the premortal existence. 553 AD Council of Constantinople attempts to rid church of these notions, but couldn't. Later, the devil is depicted as a black man riding backwards on a jackass. Fallen angels are depicted being blackened by their fall. Colored symbolism was passed down in White Sunday versus Black Sabbath. The term blacken the heart in Romans 1, 16 through 21 is an example of ancient colored symbolism. White Sunday was an earlier tradition that reminded Christians of white baptismal robes. Satanists reversed this into Black Sabbath, or black robes, in mockery of Christ. In modern times, old black and white cowboy movies and Indian movies use colored symbolisms too. White hats for good guys, black hats for bad. It's ancient colored symbolisms passed down to our time. In the Ante-Nicene Fathers, here, Clement of Alexandria mentions being anointed and clothed in a garment, symbolic of Christ. He also made references to, quote, the robe of immortality, end of quote. Getting into colored symbolisms, we read in the writings of Barnabas, who wrote about 100 AD, and about 100 through 118 is his writings, has been dated. He's an early Christian writer, and he used colored symbolisms. And he says that the devil is, quote, the black one, end of quote. Irenaeus, who was writing about 120 through 202, against heresies. Now he's writing against heresies. He's not writing heresies, he's writing against heresies. This is Irenaeus, and this is what he says. He uses colored symbolism, and Irenaeus says that the devil gradually darkens the hearts of his followers, and thus gets them to forget the true God, while also seeing their adoration of himself as God. So again, there's that colored symbolism in early Christian writings that shows up. Part of the doctrine of the two ways, that's an ancient concept. Christ talks about the narrow path and then the broad way. It's a very ancient ideology where they talk about the two ways. Well, it's been filtered down through the centuries to our time. Part of the doctrine of the left-hand path in opposition to the right-hand path. So those who are on the left hand, who take the left hand or the broad road, will eventually experience the reversal of deification and will become more and more like the devil when they are demonified. This also shows up in artworks and writings of early to later Christianity. For some, artworks show how fallen angels lost their bright natures and retrogressed towards darker colors, which colors were symbolical of their fall from righteousness to wickedness, plus how they fell from purity to impurity and all of the things in opposition against God. Thus, those who go down the left-hand path of the fallen angels will retrogress to becoming like unto them. As we shall see, this is one of the main purposes and points in music that is produced in modern secret societies attempting to gain control of the world. The reversal process is also that of turning rock music records backwards. This was during the late 1960s on through the 1990s. For along with numerous antichrist messages and invitations to the listeners to join them, there's also the reversal of deification, and how some encourage their listeners to become like unto the demons, and encourages their listeners to develop satanic traits. The process by which one becomes more like the devil and his fallen angels I have called demonification. It is in complete opposite and is the reversal of the early Christian doctrine of deification, where you become more like Christ. Satanists, in their worship of the devil, reverse Christian values, renounce Christ and his church, and blasphemously treated its sacred objects, symbols, and ceremonies. They also are said to wreck Christian symbols, desecrate cemeteries, and perform occasional ritual murders. They mock Christ and his rituals, and believe that the power of evil can be invoked by reversing or standing Christian morality and ritual upon its head. The reversal process also shows up in so-called pacts with the devil, for the pact is said to be written from right to left, since the devils did most things in reverse to show their opposition to Christianity. AD 1634, the reversal process also shows in the way the black, in opposition to white, masses of Catholic Church rituals were defiantly said in reverse or backwards. In other words, the Mass of the Catholic Church was said backwards in the black Mass. Note the colored symbolism again. Black Mass. Crosses were also inverted, and black vestments were worn in opposition to white robes which Christian priests wore. Because of this reversal process, it was believed in later Christendom that the devil and his followers ride animals backwards. The devil and his demons used many Christian rites, etc., which were counterfeited and borrowed and eventually reversed and perverted.